thing. I think Mr. Baghdadi gave me ammunition for this one. I told you guys before, you know, I'm a baby boomer, so when children in school wanted to know something like that and their teachers wanted them to be interested in it, it was a person who was called Dr. Lester Fisher of the Lincoln Park Zoo. And we would have field days at the zoo where our teachers would lay out if we were talking about reptiles or the regular zoo animals. But that was under a controlled atmosphere. Children to learn that.
Oh, these reptile shows are getting huge. I was at a block party last year in Mount Greenwood, and all police and fire out there, and all their kids and all this kind of thing. And yeah, they bring out these reptile shows with the snakes and iguanas and everything else, and it's an amazing experience for them. It's a controlled environment, you know. But I get where he's saying that the ordinance doesn't allow for such, and certainly I'll just speak for myself. I'm open-minded enough to understand, you know, that maybe there's a need for it, but certainly it's not just my call. That's which I want him to speak to everybody else.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. I tell you what, Mr. Smoot, back in the day, I'll just go back to the 80s, and I was probably 26, 27 years old, and I actually knew two women that lived downtown in different apartments, but they had 8-foot boa constrictors for pets. And really, they were harmless. I mean, when I first saw it, yeah, I was stunned. You know, I am very urbanized. You know, but it's like, as he pointed out, there's certainly a nature and there's a need for education all the time. And I think it's great that he's willing to step up to promote more of that idea. So.
And he was correct too, because I grew up, you know, loving dinosaurs. And in fact, before I left home and came down here, I saw a 1956 movie, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. So,
Yeah, no, I get you. Thank you.
No, and I'll even chime in on that topic. This was several years ago, but my son convinced his kindergarten class at Lane School to adopt a boa constrictor as their class pet.
Wow.
They didn't physically adopt it, but I mean, there was like voting and campaigning, and he convinced the class that they needed to choose the boa constrictor.
It's interesting, you know, and it makes for a great topic of discussion between kids, especially when they don't know anything about it. They can learn about it and stuff, yeah, too. Yeah, you can use that mic up there. It's good.
All right.
You got to get kind of close to it.
Cool. Am I good?
Yeah.
Great. Well, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak at your guys' trustee meeting. I want to introduce myself. So my name is Ali. I'm a lifelong animal enthusiast who, growing up, idolized legendary conservationists like Jungle Jack Hanna, Steve Irwin, Jim Fowler, and many more. Their passion and dedication inspired me to dream big, to follow in their footsteps and make a difference in the world of wildlife conservation. Today, as an adult, my love for these incredible creatures has only grown stronger. I've made it my mission to carry forward the legacies of my heroes by inspiring and educating others about the crucial importance of protecting our planet's diverse biodiversity. Using reptile ambassadors, I create immersive experiences that entertain and educate, just as my childhood idols did. Through these encounters, I aim to raise awareness about responsible care for our planet and its magnificent ecosystems. Join me for an exciting journey to explore the wonders of the reptile world, all while paying tribute to the influential figures who paved the way for passionate conservationists like myself. Together, we can work together towards a better future for these special creatures and their habitat. So, I prepared 2 small speeches I'd like to give, and then we'll touch on some points in the packet that I created. So, imagine a young child with a curious mind, eager to explore the world of reptiles and develop a deep appreciation for herpetology, the study of amphibians and reptiles. The child's eyes light up with wonder and excitement when they encounter their first snake, a gentle and non-venomous constrictor, perhaps a friendly boa or a python. This initial encounter could be the spark that ignites a lifelong passion for the amazing world of reptiles. However, the ban on constrictor snakes, as it stands, casts a shadow of uncertainty over this child's budding interest. It's important to remember that many constrictor snakes are non-venomous and pose no inherent danger to humans when handled responsibly. Boas, and pythons in particular, are known for their docile nature and are often chosen as pets precisely because of their gentle disposition. This blanket ban could prevent this young enthusiast and countless others like them from ever experiencing the joy of interacting with these incredible creatures. The ban doesn't distinguish between species or individual temperament. It merely paints all constrictors with the same broad brushstroke. As a result, future herpetologists, wildlife educators, and conservationists may be deterred from pursuing their passions. They might miss the chance to learn valuable lessons about biodiversity, ecosystems, and responsible animal care through hands-on experiences with constrictor snakes. The restriction not only limits personal growth and educational opportunities, but also hampers the potential for individuals to become advocates for these animals and champions of wildlife conservation. Moreover, understanding and appreciating reptiles like constrictors is essential for their conservation. By interacting with these animals in a safe and controlled environment, individuals can foster empathy and develop a sense of responsibility towards their well-being in the wild. So in conclusion, while the intention of regulations is to protect public safety and animal wellness, it's crucial to consider the unintended consequences. A more nuanced approach that distinguishes between species and encourages responsible ownership could both ensure public safety and allow individuals, especially children, to explore and nurture their love for herpetology. This way, we not only safeguard our communities, but also inspire the next generation of reptile enthusiasts and conservationists. Now, this second speech that I prepared kind of goes into the specifics on Section 5.1. So the ban on constrictor snakes is overly broad and could affect many non-venomous, harmless snake species that are constrictors by nature. This ban might prevent reptile enthusiasts from keeping and studying snake species, including very common pet snakes like boas and pythons. Crocodilians, as mentioned in the ordinance, there's no crocodile species that stay under 12 inches in size. This provision is likely based on inaccurate information, making it unenforceable and arbitrary. The ordinance also uses terms as like poisonous, and snakes aren't poisonous. They're some species contain venom. They're venomous. I make that a point because that demonstrates a lack of understanding about the animals. And just generally, the broad language on dangerous animals. The term dangerous animals is vague and open to interpretation. This could potentially be used to ban any reptile, regardless of its actual behavior or risk to public safety, which is not scientifically justified. Another point in the ordinance, it bans piranha fish, and the inclusion of piranhas in this ordinance is likely based on sensationalism and fear rather than scientific evidence. There's many carnivorous species of fish. Piranhas are just the ones that are in like movies and stuff like that. So they're not inherently more dangerous than any other carnivorous fish. I make that a point because that kind of shows that it's really rooted in fear, because by nature those animals are very shy. And in the U.S., nobody has died from a piranha, and it's so uncommon that there's like no logistics on it. A point that I may trail back to, constrictor snakes, and since they've been documenting attacks and stuff, only 10 people have passed away from snake attacks, and they're very isolated situations where there was animal neglect and other factors that caused it. So, and that figure is even debated because it's often sensationalized. So overall, this ordinance appears to be outdated, poorly informed, and based on misconceptions about reptiles and other animals. It may not serve a clear and valid purpose in terms of public safety or animal welfare. Revisiting and updating such ordinances with input from experts in the field would be advisable to ensure that they are both accurate and fair. So, fear in legislation. Fear, whether rational or irrational, can play a significant role in shaping legislation. One common example is the fear of certain animals, such as reptiles and other exotic species, are often portrayed negatively in media and folklore. While it's natural for humans to have fears, it's essential to recognize that fear alone should not dictate the course of legislation. The fear of animals, particularly reptiles, can result in blanket bans or restrictions that may not align with the actual risks that they pose. So, as illustrated by the ordinance, there are instances where fear has led to the enactment of regulations that ban or restrict ownership of certain animals. while well-intentioned, they're based on outdated perceptions and fail to consider the nuances of animal behavior, individual ownership responsibility, and the welfare for the animals themselves. Such regulations often deserve scrutiny to ensure that they are well-informed and fair. Balancing interests of public safety, animal welfare, and individual rights is a complex endeavor. Legislators must weigh the potential risks of certain animal ownership against the rights of individuals who responsibly care and appreciate these animals. Moreover, the laws should be rooted in scientific evidence and expert advice rather than general fear or anecdotes. So with that being said, I'm going over Ordinance Section 1, and I want to bring some points in the packet that I have prepared. And another, while I'm flipping through this, I'd like to bring up, there's six schools in Alsip and one public library, if I'm correct. I think it's really important to make up for lost time, if you will, because these kids may have never had the opportunity to learn about reptiles and animals up close, and the 6 schools and a library, that really encompasses a lot of kids.
So let me ask, Ali, are you focused more so on just the reptiles in this case?
So my focus, kind of in my private endeavors, are with reptiles.
Okay.
But really what I'm seeking is amending the ordinance to be in a way where, so IDNR, Department of Natural Resources, they have regulations for exotic animal ownership. Not only, snakes, but, crocodilians and other exotic animals. And they have all these state regulations. There's permit processes and stuff. And really, I'm proposing that the law be amended to follow the state more closer and to allow ownership of any animal unless contrary to state law.
Okay. No, because I know you had that in your packet here. So, obviously, our original ordinance, as you said, whether it's a matter of opinion, whether it's, if the language is outdated, but the original ordinance was drafted in 1979.
Right.
It was amended in 96 and 97. I apologize, I didn't have the original ordinance, just to kind of, obviously identify what the change might have been to the ordinance. But as the ordinance currently stands, because we do YouTube all of these meetings, that livestock, wild, or dangerous animals shall be unlawful to keep any live swine, pigs, horses, ponies, mules, donkeys, cows, calves, sheep, lambs, or goats in the village. It shall be further unlawful for any person to have, keep, maintain, or have in his possession or under his control within the village any poisonous reptile or serpent, or any other dangerous or carnivorous wild animal or reptile, or vicious or dangerous domesticated animal for any of the following animals or reptiles: baboons, chimpanzees, gibbons, gorillas, orangutans, bears, cheetahs, crocodilians, as you said, 12 inches or longer, constrictor snakes, coyotes, foxes, hyenas, jaguars, leopards, lions, lynxes, ocelots, piranha fish, pumas, raccoons, tigers, and wolves. This section shall not apply to circuses when properly licensed by the village. It shall be unlawful to keep carrier pigeons, racing pigeons, hobby or show pigeons, or homing pigeons within the village limits. So you're trying to ask, if I'm understanding you correctly, Ali, what you're asking then is you'd like to change the ordinance to allow reptiles, correct?
Right. More so really just to allow the ownership of any exotic animal unless contrary to IDNR's regulations. So there's a special use permit and process that they offer for ownership of a lot of, I guess you'd call them exotic species. So on a state level, there's no restriction to snake length or size. You could have constrictors and so forth. Otherwise, they have the special use permit where you could own crocodiles, monitor lizards. Now, they don't just give it out to anybody. It's a permit that you apply for, and IDNR officer comes out to your facility or home. They look at the facility. There's inspections that get passed. You have to do 6 minimum educational programs a year to maintain it, and it's in place to offer, animals to be used as educational ambassadors to educate. So I think a blanket ban is really, it misses the opportunity for people to learn about reptiles up close. And a lot of these species, they're endangered in their natural habitats, and a lot of them only exist in captivity. So, and I think especially when educating children and stuff, in my presentations that I do especially, nothing gets their attention more than having an animal right in front of them that they could interact with and so forth. So that's why I come kind of like really reptile focused, but really the problem lies with the ordinance banning a lot of those animals. And I think that with IDNR's regulations and stuff, they have scientists that work for the state of Illinois that do the research, and they're always tweaking those ordinances. I have a contact in IDNR. His name is Scott Ballard. He's written a lot of the laws regarding snakes at the state level, and it's really unfortunate to see a town like Alsip with ordinances like this, because Illinois is very rooted in reptiles. We have the only road in the entire country that they shut down twice a year for snake migration near Carbondale in Anna, Illinois. And we have a couple of the biggest conventions for reptiles, like in Tinley Park. Just over the weekend they had the NARBC Reptile Breeders Conference, and there was probably over 10,000 people in attendance. And the reptile industry is just huge in Illinois. I had some facts included in that packet where how many thousands of households have reptiles, as well as how much money people spend on their exotic pets in the state.
Right. So, Ali, let me ask you, if the board were to consider changing this ordinance, where would the benefit be? Just for the people who want to have reptiles, or did you have specific plans in this particular village?
So I would love to come here and educate, like I mentioned earlier, to make up for lost time. A lot of the kids haven't had, a lot of the programs I do are in school, in library, presentations where I bring, my reptile ambassadors, not only snakes, but tortoises. I have lizards that in Alsip could maybe be construed as dangerous, even though they're very hand tame. And that's just it, too. A lot of these reptiles, they're not wild. They've been bred in captivity about half a dozen generations now, and they're like very tame. And that's just it, where there's a lot of misconceptions about reptiles. So I think not only changing it would benefit, private citizens that want to own reptiles, but I think it'll make a great opportunity for it, because I'm not the only wildlife educator around here, not by a long shot, and I'm not even the biggest one in Illinois. But it would allow, educators like myself to feel safe, coming here and educating, people in Alsip, because, I mean, as long as I could remember, reptiles have been an interest of kids for generations and generations. Even just me growing up, I'm 23 years old, but I grew up reading dinosaur books, and then my dad in the 80s, they had Jurassic Park, and he had dinosaur books, and the interest is very generational, and it's really unfortunate that these ordinances have been in place for so long.
Okay. Like I said, I just wanted to find out if you were focused more on the ordinance bill. Like you said, there can be an educational benefit, but because it is the way it stands, you can't make demonstrations or presentations at the schools because of which.
Right.
Understood. This is a lot to digest, I can tell you. I mean, even when I first got this packet, I sat and read through everything that you sent me. But, I'm certainly, I don't want to speak for all the board, that's why they're here, and they can certainly ask any questions, but this is going to take a couple of sessions to kind of talk about this, because, like I said, there's a lot here to digest on something like this.
Yeah, it definitely is. I added some examples on other, like Cook County, DuPage County, and a couple of towns that have kind of ordinances in place to how I'd like them to be, where, for example, Cook County's no person shall keep or permit to be kept or display for exhibition purposes any wild animal contrary to federal, state, local laws or regulations. DuPage County has something similar, kind of on that broad level.
That's what I'm saying. The majority of towns were in line with what we are, but, and like you said, the state is a little more broad.
Yes.
As far as that's concerned. And that's what I'm saying. That's where we actually, and we don't really have the time tonight to go to, but this is where, when you make a presentation like this, now it stimulates the conversation where we can kind of sit down and do some homework on this and stuff yet, too.
I had some follow-up questions. So, as the mayor had mentioned, it's just a lot to digest, so thank you for the information. But, so you're not located in Alsip, you're just asking for the ability to do educational workshops and so forth?
I'm not even like looking to amend it for my own personal sake. It's really just for, the kids that are going to grow up in Alsip and, or will be in 10 years or something like that. I even in my own presentations that I do with the Reptile Den, I go into every presentation not really thinking of like what am I going to personally gain, but am I going to talk to the next Steve Irwin or next veterinary doctor or something of that sort. And kind of like a big thing that I do with the Reptile Den for educational institutions, we're completely budget friendly, just because I think it's that important, to be able to have time to speak to people in a setting like a library or a school, bring reptiles, and we go through a ton of misconceptions about them. Like a lot of people think that snakes are slimy, and just a ton of other kind of misconceptions. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Trustees, any other questions for Ali right now?
Just one quick one. Reptiles are known to have diseases. Is that a fact, or is that a misconception?
It's a misconception.
So that's
fact,
totally false.
It's completely false. Reptiles could hardly contract any of like the bacteria that we have. I mean,
Like salmonella?
no. I mean, no more than a chicken or something. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
No. The fact is, I mean, reptiles they're very clean. They don't sit in their own filth or anything. I keep a bunch of different species just in my private collection. And, they'll use the bathroom on one side of the enclosure, they'll move to the other side. So they're smart, and honestly, so I have a 10-foot Burmese python. He's 16 years old, he's over 50 pounds. His name's Starburst, and he was actually a classroom pet many years ago, and he outgrew the classroom, and I rescued him. Most of the animals I use are rescues, and just a lot of people think that, and a lot of people are afraid of him, and he's like a snake you could scratch under the chin. I have a tegu lizard that walks with my dog and cat. It's like the same size. And the truth is, these animals are super docile. They're not wild caught. And I'm fortunate enough that through my ventures doing educational shows, that I even have some endangered animals that I'm permitted for. I have a western hognose snake that would be banned under these ordinances to bring here, but the truth is they're endangered in Illinois. They're essentially like functionally extinct. They really only exist. They exist in other states, but in Illinois, western hognose they're endangered. And through permits, I've been able to own a hatchling. I have a hatchling that I recently acquired, and that really starts a conversation when I could get that animal in classrooms with kids, and for a lot of these kids, they'll never see that animal, anywhere else, really. Some of the animals that I show, they don't even exhibit in the zoo, and these shows are so important to bring to schools and libraries because it takes that glass away, that viewing glass that you'd be in front of at the zoo otherwise, and you could put your hands on a reptile and hold them, and I could, really explain, and it's the best tool to educate. So.
No, understood. And obviously, it was a very good presentation, Ali. I mean, obviously, you have a lot of passion in this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, too, So, if you would, please. And that's why I know you were speaking more to my assistant the whole time. I've had a full plate all week, but I certainly sat and read all that.
Thank
and
you.
I said, no, by all means, ask him if you'd like to make a presentation. Give us a few weeks to look at this, seriously. Well, we meet every couple of weeks like this in committee,
Yeah.
where we can talk about this, and I'd be happy to I don't know, let's revisit this in 2 weeks, okay, please?
Yeah, I would love to.
And let's see if the board wants to look further into this or not and stuff
Great.
then too, okay? But I'd like to afford them a couple weeks to really look at this and stuff
Absolutely.
too, okay?
If any of you, I gave you guys my business card,
Sure.
the email on there. Should you need any other information, I respond very quickly, so.
Okay. Thanks much, Ellie, I appreciate it.
Thank you.